Good morning. We've got a great crowd for a brisk Thursday morning. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. We'll now have our invocation and pledge. Today we have Miss Hannah Kelly and Miss Sydney Junek with us. Hannah Kelly has spent the past 2 years at Blinn College following graduation from Ganado High School in 2023. During high school, Hannah was a dedicated member of the varsity cheer team, varsity golf team, band, and National Honor Society. Hannah will receive an associate's degree in business from Blinn College in May. Hannah has been a member of Blinn's cheer team while at Blinn. Additionally, she works for the Universal Cheerleaders Association during the summer and occasionally on weekends. The UCA is known for its high-quality coaching, training, and resources, helping cheerleaders improve their skills, technique, and performance. Hannah stated it has been a privilege to be a member of the Blinn cheerleading team, an experience that has had a profound impact on her, shaping her perspective and fostering both personal and professional growth. And I'm going to go ahead and read Sydney's information as well. Sydney Junek has been a member of the Blinn College cheerleading team for 2 years. Sydney graduated from Van Vleck High School in 2023. In high school, she was part of the varsity cheerleading team, the varsity golf team, varsity cross country, FFA, and vice president of the National Honor Society during her senior year. Sydney will also receive her associate's degree in business from Blinn College in May. Sydney works for the National Cheerleaders Association during the summer and occasionally on weekends. Sydney stated it has been an honor to be a part of the Blinn cheer team, and the team is a true testament to teamwork, determination, and the power of collective effort where every member's contribution leads to success. Ladies, we appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and have the pledge. We'll do the invocation first.
Okay. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude for the opportunity to serve and lead. We thank you for the chance to be a part of this meeting, which will help shape the future of our college. Lord, we ask for your wisdom to guide each decision we make, that we may prioritize the well-being, growth, and success of our students. Help us to improve our skills, be open to learning, and stay humble in the face of challenges. Grant us discernment to hear and understand one another, and the courage to take necessary steps for positive change. May we always be grateful for the opportunity to work together and be mindful of the impact our actions have on the lives of others. In your name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ladies, for helping us with that this morning, and good to see you and all your teammates here. Congratulations, and we'll talk about that here in just a bit. It does not appear that anyone signed up for public comment this morning, so I will turn it over to Dr. Hensley for the Chancellor's report.
Well, good morning, everyone. How wonderful to see everybody's bright and smiling faces this morning. Thank you, Chair Colcorson. Good morning, trustees, to each of you. I'd like to take a special moment, if I might, as I begin my remarks this morning, to recognize two special guests that we have in the audience. They're friends of Trustee Wells. I'm so pleased to welcome both of these individuals. They are Prairie View A&M University students. They're majoring in health and kinesiology, and they're interning with Trustee Wells and Faith Mission this spring. So I'd like to call their names and ask them to stand. Please join me in welcoming Nia Season and Heather Roxanne Charleston. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the elected officials in action and the actual operations of a college. And so it's I think it's very exciting to be able to come to a meeting like this and see what really happens in the real world. So you take your university experience and come today and you're seeing it activated in real life. Trustee Wells, you are such a wonderful member of the trustees. And also, you know, all that you do for Faith Mission is just so commendable and so outstanding for this community. And I see you at so many events representing Blinn College, but here you are working with Prairie View University, and you know, it's just wonderful that you represent this college so well and that you go to that extra effort of not only recognizing our students and our athletes, but bringing those from outside of our community at another university and bringing them to Blinn today too to watch you in action as well as the whole board in action. So I just wanted to give you just a moment if there's anything that you would like to say regarding your students here this morning or the internship that they are doing.
Thank you, Chancellor. Briefly, thank you all for welcoming them as they came in. And most people don't know that Faith Mission actually conducts internships for about 9 different universities in the state of Texas, from associates to doctoral level, training from sociology to business to health and kinesiology. So it's just a pleasure to be able to train the next generation of professionals. Thank you.
All right, and ladies, someday, when you live in Washington County, you may be interested in running for elected office. And we are always looking for wonderful trustees for the future of this institution. So I guess I would just say, sit up, pay attention, and I hope you enjoy every moment of this morning. Thank you for being here. It's really special to have you with us this morning. Well, on to such wonderful news today. Trustees, I am so proud of this next item. Earlier this month, the Blinn College cheer team won the 7th national championship in program history, our 7th national championship in program history, winning the NJCAA Competitive Cheer Invitational in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, at this inaugural event, Blinn became the nation's first all-girl division champion, and their win marks the 50th national title in the history of Blinn College athletics. That deserves an applause. The cheer team will compete for additional national championships in April at the National Cheer Association and the National Dance Association meet in Daytona Beach, Florida. At this time, I would like to invite head coach Sarah Volosky to the podium. Sarah, won't you come on down and introduce your team before we take a photo in just a moment with the entire Board of Trustees.
Good
Welcome,
morning,
Sarah.
everyone. Hi. We are so excited for this opportunity. This was a very special trip for us, being the very first winners of the NJCAA competitive cheer program. It is something that we will see growing, and hopefully that will move around the United States, that hopefully you will be able to see more of what we do. If the girls would stand up, this is our competitive cheer program for girls. Again, super excited for their accomplishments. They had to compete against teams from Chicago. I will say that all of the winners from the girls' side and the boys' side were all from Texas, so that is a perk to that. We do have some special gifts for Dr. Hensley from that. The champion shirt, champion hat, our NJCAA pin, and then the program I had all the girls sign.
Wow, thank you. Let Chair Colcorson may come to the front and accept this together. And trustees, if you'll just stay seated, because we're going to do a little bit more and then we'll take a photo. Sarah told me before the meeting this morning that y'all can load me up, and I thank you. Thank you so much. Let's make sure that everybody, the chair can
Yes. Always has a hat. So that was probably our biggest thing is when we came back, I was like, extra hats, please, let's go. Yes, ma'am. So it's just the program that all the teams that competed in this from around the United States, and we sent our pictures and stuff like that. And so I had all the girls sign it for you. Your continued support for athletics is absolutely outstanding. We all know in athletics that we would not be where we are without Dr. Hensley and our board support. We see you at events. We are very appreciative of what you do for us. And as a student of Blinn College, I am very proud to be up here representing our next generation of athletes and young adults as they move forward.
Sarah, thank you so very much. I'd love to do a couple of things if we might.
Yes.
Could we just have you two who gave us the presentation, could we take a picture with you all?
Oh.
And then I'm going to ask all of our young ladies to come forward and Sarah as well. And we'll have the trustees join us and we'll take a large group photo.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, because this is the way you know me, I'm going to leave my hat on.
Yes.
Here we go.
And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, come on down. And trustees, if you don't mind, we will photo together, please, and you step forward out of the foot. And y'all know how we do this. Tighten up and make sure you can stay there. Actually, you know what, Chair? How about we get in the back, because I think we're tall. And sometimes the girls and the young to make sure we can get great photos, so we don't really do that today. You are so wonderful.
All right, I'll count to 3. And 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Now run over to the trustees and introduce yourselves really quickly.
And we do have one more little gift for Dr. Hensley, well, for us, our 11th national championship ring. It's pretty, if I do say so myself. Yes. No, this is for dance for last year. We did one at football season, and then the other one came in at Christmas time, so this is the second one. I know. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of time. Yes, it does take a little time. So we'll do like Basil did, but it won't be until next year. That is correct. That is a correct statement. I don't think they realized they were supposed to come all the way to the end. Okay. And then we do have one more little gift for Dr. Hensley, again, for her consistent support for us. This, for dance, is our 11th national championship ring. And we got these at our last basketball game. We did the first ones at football for POM. That was the 10th one. And this is number 11 for dance. And this is for team dance. And so we would like to present you your last.
All right, I'll count to 3. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
You'll get another one soon. We're all coming in hot.
Did you all see this? Isn't that lovely? It's just lovely. Thank you so much. them in all of our activities. They do such a beautiful job. They represent Blinn so beautifully and so wonderfully. And I just feel like a mother hen to all of them. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you so much. Best of luck in Daytona. We're going to expect another ring and another ceremony.
Yes.
And another picture and
Yes.
another event.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Pardon me for walking in front. Isn't that wonderful? They're just so wonderful. I know you all have been to so many games and you've seen them. I'm just so proud of them. They're just excellent representatives for Blinn College. Well, we have a retiree this morning. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce you to her. Layla, would you step forward, please? We'll have you come right over here. Right there will be just fine, right next to Trustee Krause, and thank you. Trustees, I'd like to introduce you to Layla Barrett. She recently announced that she's going to retire. Layla has been with us for 17 years, and I always hate these moments because it's hard to say goodbye, Layla. But I want the board to know a little bit about you. Trustees, Layla joined Blinn as a web coordinator in 2008. And then she became the client coordinator for Blinn's Small Business Development Center in 2016. Matthew Waring, director of the Small Business Development Center, said the following, quote, "Our focus here at the SBDC is helping the business community with their needs. Layla has been instrumental in helping clients start and to grow their businesses by giving them expert advice and hands-on assistance with their marketing strategies. Our clients love Layla, and they love working with her. In 8+ years here at the SBDC, each and every client review has been positive. Layla has certainly earned her retirement, and we sincerely wish her well. Layla, thank you so much for all that you have done at Blinn College for these past 17 years. It's going to be a different life for you, and it will be so different at Blinn, and especially at the SBDC, without your daily presence here, and we are going to miss you. Layla, congratulations on your retirement. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, the administration, and all of our faculty, staff, and students, and all of the clients at the SBDC who you have served so well, we thank you and wish you well in your retirement. And I know that our trustees would like to have an opportunity to shake your hand and to thank you personally. So if you don't mind, trustees, they will stand and Layla will come back around to visit with each and every one of you, and then we'll take a photo. And we're going to have you come and stand right in the front, Layla. And Chair Colkhorst would like to give you some remarks.
Layla, congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for the service that you've given to Blinn College, and we hope that you just have the absolute greatest time in your retirement.
Thank you so very much. And I know he would like to present you with a couple of things.
We've got a couple of gifts for you. We've got a special gift here. I think it's a watch and a certificate that honors your legacy here.
You know, Layla, you've been here for 17 years now. It's hard to imagine, really, time flew by so quickly. But do you have anyone here with you today that you would like to recognize and acknowledge? And also, do you have any remarks that you would like to make? And let me hold your things for you, or Chair Colkhorst will, for a moment. And I'll give you the microphone.
Oh, well, I have my husband, Brent Barrett, is here, and he's been my rock for over 17 years as well. And Matthew Waring, my awesome director. And actually, yes, I'm retiring. I call it graduating. But I'm going to come back to graduate school part-time at the SBDC for a while. So I'm not really going away. I'm just kind of
Stepping aside for a moment.
stepping aside and then coming back, but I'm still going to be able to be here and enjoy my time because it's been a wonderful time at Blinn I've been very blessed to be here, and I like it so much, I'm coming back.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that, Layla. Congratulations. And if it's all right with you, we'd like to take a picture. And then let's have Matthew and your husband come forward, and we'll take a group picture together. Is that all right with you? All right, maybe step forward about a foot. Congratulations, Layla. Matthew, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming this morning. We appreciate it, and we're going to look forward to seeing you soon, Layla. All right. Thank you so very much, trustees, and what a wonderful start to a great meeting. Chair Colhurst, I'll return the podium to you at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to item B, the presentation of the financial statement package for period ended January 31st, 2025. I think Dr. Burton is going to take that.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Dr. Hensley, trustees, Chair Colhurst. This is our data as of 42% of the year at the end of January, the 5th month. The topics we'll cover in this are the unrestricted cash and cash equivalent balances, the revenues, the expenditures, the financial results, and some general observations. Looking at our pie chart here, we show $91 million. Of that, $42.5 million is in reserve, $9.4 million is available for deferred maintenance, $28 million is available for new projects, and then $11 million is available for current projects. Looking at the breakdown of the current projects, $4.5 million is for the Bryan Administration Building, and as a note, we should be paying this down pretty significantly by the next report. We've got retainage and things like that to close out, and furniture payments. And then the other amount is the Brenham Campus Chiller Project, and that's a project that Mr. Feldhage has been progressing, updating the board on as it progresses. Moving through our student cash summaries, financial aid and payments from students and refunds issued to students totaled $8.7 million for January. Keep in mind, the majority of our cash from enrollment is going to come in the February month. A lot of financial aid and things come in February. January, we get the upfront payments from people who pay their tuition up front. But the financial aid will come in February. State appropriations, this is not a month in which we receive appropriations, but we have interest. And a note on the interest is that as of this month, the 5th month of the year, we have exceeded our budget for interest. And so anything we get is something extra. So going through, there is our payroll and our construction expenses. Those are $11.5 million. Our total of the previous 3 slides is a decrease of $1.8 million, but keep in mind, this does not reflect the large tuition that we'll receive in February, plus the 1/4 of state appropriation. Looking at our revenues, compared to last year, we're about $800,000 behind, but that's due to the decrease in state appropriations that the state gave us at the beginning of the year. Also, there's a decrease in auxiliary. Moving forward, we have state appropriations is 20% of our revenues. Our tuition and fees is 60% of our revenues, and the remainder is the 20%. Our state appropriation, again, that's 43% at this time of the year of our budget. And our tuition and fee revenue is above the budget as year to date. Looking at tuition and fee comparison, A majority of Blinn's tuition fee comes from the out-of-district. Our fee revenue, general revenues, fee revenue is steady, as well as our lab and our non-credit. Housing is at 49% of the, housing and food service is at 49% of budget at 45% of the year, 43% of the year. And then these are the sources. If you're looking at trends, food service is slightly increasing. Housing is decreasing because of the P3s. Our expenditures, salary and benefits are a majority of what we've spent year to date. And there is a $700,000 increase, which was to be expected and budgeted because of primarily salary raises. Our salary and benefits, our education and general expenditures, and our debt service, very consistent between the 2 years as a percentage. And again, the majority of our expenses are salary and wages. Going back, our operating expense by function, very steady compared to prior year. And then our total financial results. We have $70 million or $69 million in revenues, $57 million in expenses for a net of $12 million to the plus. Compared to where we were last year, we're down $1.5 million, but almost all of that can be explained by the state reduction in funding that we received. Observations, Blinn is healthy cash-wise. Our revenues are above budget, our expenses are below budget, and we seem to be moving forward in a positive way. Any questions?
Just a quick question now, I lost it, but the FAST
Yes, ma'am.
income, that came in,
No, it has not.
it has not?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
I saw a big number.
But
Uh-huh,
it has not come in.
Okay.
So we're expecting that in March, and that's where it's historically, and historically is 1 year, and that's also compared to our sister colleges have all received theirs in March.
because that's what I was gonna ask, is that the amount that we expect to get from them, or are we
Uh,
expecting more?
Yeah, it's a pure guess. I hate to say
Okay.
that at this point, because the state determines eligibility, and they don't really give us much feedback before. We argue with them after we get the money is what we're doing. Mr. Schubert, would you care to contribute?
No, that's a correct statement. I mean, the TEA and coordinating board are the one that determine eligibility. We can then go back and ask to verify that, but until they do that, it's totally up to them who's eligible.
Trustee O'Malley.
How are federal funds? Do we get fed funds, and how do those work?
We get federal funds for financial aid, both Pell and loans. That's our majority of our federal funds.
But those aren't reflected, I guess, in your in the financial
They
side.
come in, you'll see the federal funds as mostly in our tuition.
Okay.
The Pell is, and that's, again, where that money will come in February, as we start receiving the awards of federal funds for loans and for Pell. And there may be some work study money in there. That's where that appears into our operating budget. This is the college's operating budget.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Trustee
A couple of
Krause.
things. Your charts don't quite match up with the documentation you give us. And so if you'll go back to the one chart where it has the tuition comparison
Let's see which one.
from previous years. So our out-of-district, according to the document you sent us, our tuition difference for out-of-district is 1.2 million. And you didn't say anything about that. I think that's a pretty hefty amount. But at the same time, and I guess what I don't understand is your waivers and exemptions, allowances and discounts make up about that same amount in the positive. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Chairman Carlson, I'm going to have to elaborate on the question. I just don't have an answer off in my back pocket. So can I get with you afterwards and get a clarification on the question and then get you the data?
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the documents you send us.
Yes,
And that's,
and I apologize, I don't have that right there, but I will gladly follow up with you after the meeting and get you an answer.
okay. The other question is on food service, we're down almost 250,000 in revenue, and I don't know if that, is that,
Now, that's a function of our housing numbers being slightly, or being down, and so we're not selling as many meal plans as we have in the prior years.
okay, well, and see, it just doesn't, so in your document here, overall, our auxiliary enterprises revenue is down 486,000, but that just doesn't quite line up with what you have right there.
Now, keep in mind, this is a percentage. This is not dollars. So this is the percentage of our revenue by source. And so is this even the right chart?
It'd be nice to see something here in our presentation that's more similar. I like the way you send it out to us.
Okay.
But I would like to see something like that in our charts and what you're presenting here.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
All right. We will follow up with you, Trustee.
I have one other question.
Okay.
It's on 12 of the stuff you gave us, because it just jumped out at me. Cash investment pools was down 20 million. What does that mean?
I'll need to follow up why that is, but typically we've been moving money out of the pools into CDs.
Okay.
And so because that's one area, but also we've had to pay a lot of cash out of for our construction projects in Bryan. And that had...
That's what I was wondering, if it was for some of those expenses.
Yes, and so, again, I'll follow up with you on that particular question. But in general, our cash consultant has been encouraging us to use CDs as best we can, because in their mind, and it's not really working out, interest rates should drop, and we want to be in a CD when the interest rates go down. And the pools will go down as soon as the rates go down. So, but again, we'll follow up with you on that, okay? And I'll get a very specific answer. So.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Burton. We will now move on to item C, institutional enrollment report for the winter 2024 mini-mester and preliminary spring 2025 semester. Dr. McBride.
Good morning. It's like magic. The screen just changed for me. Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. It's my pleasure this morning to share with you the results of our winter mini enrollment and also the preliminary numbers for the spring semester. As you can see, trustees, on this slide, we're actually in the second largest winter mini enrollment since 2017-2018 academic year, so that's very exciting to see those numbers increasing. And as you know, the courses taught during this semester are very intense. Students only have 11 days of instruction and a day of finals, so it's very, very quick. The semester began December 16th and ended January 8th. Students do have a small break for the holidays, and they started right back up on January 2nd. On this slide, trustees, you'll see a breakdown by campus. I'm very impressed to see we had additional high school students that took this semester, which is, again, 11 days is all they had to take the course. The average GPA for these students is a 3.475, so they're actually doing very well academically, and I wanted to share that with you. And about 83% of the students who take these courses are Blinn-only students. The rest are students that are transfer, transient. They may take one class for us, and they go back to their main institution. So the takeaways from this part of the presentation, this was our second highest winter mini since 2017-2018. The increase in dual credit enrollment, as I said, is impressive, and they're doing well. The GPAs are very well, and they only have 11 class meeting days and a day for finals. And I'm also very grateful to our talented faculty who can teach a class in 11 days. And that's something to be said. Okay, transitioning now, looking at spring 2025 on this very cold morning. We're in the 6th week of classes, and as you can see by the red dotted line on the screen, where we are in terms of our offerings. So we started January 13th, and I think it was warmer in January when we started. And of course, we run until May 2nd. Finals are the 3rd through the 8th of May, and graduation on the 7th of May on a Wednesday at the Brenham High School Auditorium. All right, on this slide, you can see a pie chart, trustees, of the percentage and the courses that we're offering. So the majority, or 65%, are 16-week. You can see the first 8-week is about 18%, and the courses that haven't begun yet would be the second 8-week, and then the third and fourth 4-week sessions. The second 8-week starts on March 17th, with registration closing the 19th. We have many open seats available for students to enroll in at this time. And of course, we continue to reach out to our students using our CRM, or Custom Relations Management software, using texts and emails to remind students of what they need to do in order to enroll for this term. Okay, on this slide, I'm going to move to my next slide here. You can see the report by campus. So as you can see, trustees, we have an increase in the in-person enrollment, of course, in our high schools, Rellis and the Schulenburg campuses since last spring. And of course, we're looking here partial enrollment for where we are versus the certified, which is the final numbers for the years 21 through 24. I'd also like to thank Dr. Busicki and Mr. Anderson for all their support. My colleagues are terrific and wonderful to work with, and daily we are looking at numbers and class enrollments in places for our students. That's an ongoing thing on our end. I would like to say with the high schools, thank you so much again for letting us join the FAST initiative. It has been a game changer. As you can see, the almost 20% increase in that area. And we had 5 additional agreements this year, and 35 of the 58 agreements increased their enrollment because of that initiative. So thank you so much for that. Really a game changer, as I said, in that area. The Rellis campus, we just had more students enrolling over at that location. Schulenburg has had wonderful enrollment. We see some great trends there with the cohort model, for health sciences and business courses, allowing students to take classes back to back and continuous, and that's helping them to get their classes done. So that's really helped that location. I would like to touch upon Bryan as well, and what impacts enrollment for that location. As you recall, trustees, we've talked about A&M, and since 2019, that freshman class has increased annually. So more and more students have been able to go to that 4-year choice and start their program as opposed to coming to us. I'd also like to note from when we talked in December, out of the 41 the public universities in this state, 36 of 41 have increased their freshman class, and have noted that in the media. So what we're seeing is many of the students are able to go to their 4-year choice first, as opposed to coming to a 2-year choice, and that impacts us as well. I'd also like to talk about a little bit what we're doing at Bryan. We are continuing with our Stop Out campaign for those students. For the students that were here in fall of 23 and not 24, we called over 1,400 students. The majority have transferred on to another institution. The second largest number, from what I recall, they went to work, and the third was life changes. So, and that's in addition to using the CRM, emails and text messages reminding them periodically that we're still here for them, but not too many messages that they opt out. You know, we have to be careful with that as well. Another thing I'd like to touch upon, too, is that beautiful new building that we were all visiting on January 31st. If you recall, we had a grand opening, and that is now the gateway for the Bryan campus, and a beautiful way and a much easier way for students to find us. They can see us, it's like the storefront. They can see us from the street. They can come in and visit with us. And I don't know if you remember when Chancellor Hensley was speaking that day, she had mentioned that I had shared with her that we were starting tours the next week. What I was talking about was that very next Friday, the 7th, we had our first Blinn Friday there. So we piggybacked off of Aggie Land Saturday, which was the next day. So in the morning, we had tours and presentations at Bryan, in the afternoon at Rellis. I would like to tell you, we had a much higher turnout and a wait list for Bryan, but not Rellis. Just wanted to share that. We had 165 people at Bryan and 93 at Rellis. So I just wanted to share that we're already seeing the interest for that campus, and I just wanted to share that with you today. As a district, I'd like you to know that we are continually using that CRM to reach out to get every student that we can. Last year, we sent out over 813,000 emails, 367 text messages, in addition to 200 TACRO events we're visiting, going to high schools within our area and out of our service area. If invited, that's over another 200 visits. And so I wanted to share with you the staff is doing everything we can to onboard as many students as possible to the district. And we're also looking forward to, of course, at the new building, having our new student registration days that start in April. Again, the gateway, the walk-in, and we're already seeing that interest more so on that campus. Takeaways from the presentation, the spring part of my presentation. Of course, we've already exceeded the spring 21, 22, and 23 certified headcount. And of course, we anticipate the headcount will increase as students enroll. The numbers that you see on the screen were from February 11th because, of course, we have to do the presentation in time so you all have copies. But I would like to note we're 59 students behind the certified number from last year, and I think we're going to get there because we have till March 19th, as I mentioned, for the second 8-week enrollment. I think we're going to blast through last year's number. So I'm feeling really good and excited about that. And of course, as I mentioned, the CRM that we use to reach out to students. And what's really important too is students look in eCampus, which is the online place where they log in to see their courses and their grades. And my Blinn is the portal to register. In both of those places, teaming up with, of course, Dr. Busicki, we put messages in those portals, and that's where the students look. You're not going to look there, but the students look there. And so we want it to be very much in their minds. I need to register. I need to get advised. I need to pay my bill. All of those relevant pieces are now, we are working on that. Every couple weeks, we're changing it up. Every time a semester begins or something changes, we change them again. And we keep it very relative to the current students. So wanted to thank you for your time this morning, and I'll stand for any questions.
Dr. McBride, I just have a question on the high school, the increase in the high school
Yes.
Enrollment. That's at a bit of a discount compared to if they came straight to Blinn, their freshman year at Blinn, right? Have you guys thought about the long-term consequences of really having greatly increased high school enrollments, which those folks may only spend 1 year at Blinn when they get to Blinn, as opposed to maybe 2 years at Blinn? Just thinking through the long-term revenue consequences.
Yes, we do think about that, and I look at it as I have almost a 20% increase in my enrollment. So that means those are students we may have never touched before. And even if they're here, I'd like to have them as long as we could, right, ideally. But that's a whole group, Chair, that we never were able to onboard before.
So it could be that we're just having extra students, new students that we wouldn't have gotten if otherwise.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Trustee Kettler.
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the other, we see that popping up a little bit. Dr. McBride, is that attributed to a specific group or?
Yes, ma'am.
Or what do we have in other?
Yes, ma'am, I did ask about, the other is TEKS and fire and police. Those types of programs have seen an increase as well. They're little pockets, if that makes sense. That's why we put them in other, otherwise this report wouldn't fit on the slide.
Good to know.
Yes, ma'am.
One other thing, historically, I think at one point we had served prisons, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that in the game plan for us? And I don't know how many students that would be, but that would certainly be
Yes, ma'am.
an increased area.
Yes, ma'am, and you are correct. We were working with the correctional facility in Bryan, and so that the federal mandate came through about different things they were looking for. So we were offering certificate programs prior, and they had decided they wanted an associate's degree. And mind you, we can't use any computers there. That's something to keep in mind, too. It's very restrictive. Even when they would apply Texas, we'd have to go in with paper forms and do those sorts of things. The prison has decided, they're making some decisions right now, so it's not up to Blinn College whether we serve them or not. We are waiting to hear back from them. So we are ready to go to do whatever we can to, of course, to increase that enrollment and to serve those students. However, right now, I believe, and Marcelo can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're waiting to hear from the federal prison. So, thank you, Marcelo.
Trustee Krause.
Question. Oh, go ahead.
Diane, I
Trustee
can answer
Krause.
your question. So back when we had a really large prison program, and we used to have 400 or 500 students out there, the state paid for part of their tuition, and the state cut that out, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, so that they're not paying a portion of their tuition, and the program just pretty much went out after that, so.
Just a quick question back to high schools. Since that has risen so much, I guess, and we may have talked about it at one of the last meetings, but is a large number of that due to Waller?
Yes, ma'am. About 255 students came to us from Waller. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. so that's good.
It's excellent. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can chime in there for two things for a second. We look at where our students are coming from by the counties and all those sort of things, and I was interested in hearing, obviously we have Waller High School, we also have Royal High School, which we have an early college high school and those sort of things. We have almost 500 dual credit students from Waller County alone. In the fall semester, we had almost 500 dual credit students from Waller County alone, which is very exciting, shows the growth in that area, and all just those wonderful partnerships. And Chair Colcourse, just if I can piggyback on your question earlier, while they do, high schools do pay reduced credit, it also is a reduced expense for us because we're not teaching those courses here on our campus in brick and mortar. They're at the high schools, and how we teach and how we pay for those instructors is very different than how we would pay for a normal full-time Blinn instructor. So they are paying lower tuition under FAST, but there's also a less of an expense for the college in how we deliver those courses.
Good to know.
Two brief questions and then one brief comment. One question pertains to, I know you said about A&M enrollment, but I think we may have a window of opportunity because they're ceasing the rapid get as many students as possible. So strategically, what are we doing to maximize that opportunity since A&M has decided that they're not going to try to just let whoever enroll? That's my first question.
That's the first question. Thank you, Trustee Wells. So yes, we're very aware of that decrease in their enrollment class, meant to be for the next 5 to 7 years. So that's why we've stepped up our game, so to speak, with our outreach and our travel and places we're going. We also joined recently HARN, which is the Houston network of recruiters, because now that Waller is part of our service area in the county, Harris County, that's part of our service area. We had, I think, almost 40 visits we did since January, since last month, to increase our awareness over in that area as well. So we're adding on places to visit and people to talk with, in addition to working with marketing and making sure our outreach is there as well.
And you kind of triggered something. On one note, could you send us something that shows the demographic of where the Bryan students come from? Because that's really going to help with targeting the students who wanted to get an A&M, but now because they're reducing the quote-unquote, for lack of a better term, open enrollment, that now they have to potentially look at other places as options. So we can see what those demographics are, because it ties to the second question, that we were concerned with Relish, that we would just be swapping fish in fish tanks and taking the ones from Bryan and bringing them to Relish. And we see Relish is constantly going up, but Bryan is decreasing. So I agree with the ribbon cutting for the new tremendous building in Bryan, but the strategic programs that we're using, because if Relish is almost becoming our STEM campus, then how we maximizing the curriculum and degree programs that are not STEM related to recruit kids to the Bryan campus?
Thank you for the question. Marcelo?
Thank you for the question, Trustee. We are offering at Relish courses that support the transferability to the system schools, the A&M system schools, and team students. We have a wide array of courses at Relish, and I think that all of those are primarily supporting the basic needs of those students that are at Relish.
Thank you. So the comment is that I want to congratulate Dr. Busicki and the entire team, because now we're up to almost 14 athletic programs, and at least 9 of those athletic programs had over 3.0 GPAs, if anybody didn't see it in OneNotes. And there were literally almost 1,000 students that were either dean or chancellor's list. So for students who have to go to practice, play games, travel, to be able to maintain that type of academic performance needs to be acknowledged and commended, and also ties to the money, since, you know, where we're so concerned about money, is that when it comes to legislative appropriation and success points, every time they continue another semester and they walk across the stage and we shake their hands, that adds more revenue to the college. So I want to commend everybody who worked so hard with our students, both athletic and non-athletic, to be able to have those very impressive outcomes.
Thank you.
Dr. Krausen.
One more quick question, sorry about this, but Leighton, you mentioned the early college program at Royal. Is it still the law that we don't get tuition and fees at those early college programs? And in the past, we were able to justify having that because of the appropriations we got for contract hours. Now that that's changed to success points, what's our return on investment on these early college programs?
So I can answer from the state appropriation side. I'll let the experts answer on the tuition and fee side. But the state appropriation side, most of those students at early college high school are usually graduating high school with an associate's degree. That's the plan for an early college high school. That is a credential of value under House Bill 8 funding. So those students are getting that associate's degree, that credential of value, very early in their career when they graduate high school. So that's an automatic credit point for us, if you will, from House Bill 8 funding. I'll defer on the tuition and fees. I'm not 100% sure on the tuition and fees on early college high school.
And I'm going to be open to help on this, but with the FAST program, my state law says that the most we can charge is $58.75 or something to that effect. And so we're getting that money, whether it's from the state come March or from the individual who doesn't qualify for free and reduced lunch, we're getting that funding there. We've worked out the models, and Ms. Ward did that, and we'll share that with y'all. But the models we came out with, it was about a wash once because of the additional students we were attracting.
But even for early college, because in the past, early college meant they didn't pay tuition and fees.
For example, but now we would get the money from those. For example, we weren't charging, and again, Bryan ISD, for example, we were charging them nothing. Now we get the FAST funding for those particular students. And that was another element, is that we had a percentage of our, thank you for reminding me of this, but we had a percentage of our population who we were billing nothing to. And with the FAST, we were able to bill the state for those particular students. So.
Trustee Kettler.
May I ask one more question, please? On Waller, I had expected to see perhaps a little increase there. We've been there for about a year. Are these students waiting for our new campus to come on, Dr. McBride, or do you have a feel for that? Just want to hear your thoughts or comments.
Yes, ma'am. I have a couple thoughts. I'm going to defer to Leighton if you'd like to take this one.
I'm glad to. So as a reminder, trustees, here's our setup in Waller, and we are very appreciative of the partnership Waller ISD has given us and continue to provide us. Remember that the junior high, which is the old high school, that's where we're teaching our college courses. Now that's nights and weekends, okay? Nights and weekends at the junior high facility. At the high school facility, the new high school, that's where we're doing our workforce courses, and we're using their facilities and those sort of things. That's the setup we have. So you kind of have to put yourself in a college student's shoes. At the junior high, we're very fortunate to have that space. It's not an ideal space, though. It's a junior high facility. So if you went to Waller ISD, you went to junior high there, and now you're going to college classes there. So we're very fortunate to have that. It's a great toe in the water. But until we have a full-service campus like we have at our other campuses, full-service buildings, that's really where we're going to see that. We're very happy to be where we are now. But until we have that full-service building, you can register on site and all those sort of things, that's really going to be the heart to that campus.
Yes, thank you, Leighton, and I concur with that as well, Trustee Kettler, that it's having the location and the hours. We do receive questions about, do you have anything during the day? And so currently we do not at that location. So we're also very excited once the office building is ready for us, I believe sometime next month, that we're going to have staff on site for people to come see us during the day, during the week, when they're available. We have hosted registration days, but we have to be very strategic. It's before the school year begins, and sometimes that's not always the most attractive for folks either. So it's having that contact during the day, during the week that we're so excited to have. You're welcome.
Thank you. I think that the next item on the agenda is the Blinn Brenham Housing Summary Report, and I think you're going to take that as well, right?
Yes, sir. I'll be up here a little bit this morning, so. All right, well, good morning again. We're going to look at our housing and talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing in our residence halls here on the Brenham campus. As you can see on this slide, trustees, our total available beds to lease are at 1,774. We're at 68% occupancy, with 1,208 students physically on campus this semester. And I can't wait for the next couple years when we won't have the stars and the COVID wording on the screen, and we won't talk about that anymore, but we're going to keep that till we get 5 years out. But again, not holding any beds for anything of that significance at this time. On this slide, trustees, you can see our fill rate from 2020 fall until the current semester, and you can see again our 68%. And of course, we expect fewer students in the spring. Many students graduate and move on. We do a survey to students from housing to residential students every November and April to ask them what their plans are for the next semester. And of course, the majority that left us this semester coming into the spring graduated and or transferred to their four-year institution, and we had a few others that went home, but the majority had moved on with their academic plans, which again is what we expect them to do. We also continue to each major semester, which is fall and spring, we do reach out and send a survey to students who are taking at least one class on the Brenham campus to see if they're interested in moving on site. Many of the students indicated they live at home. They're aware about housing. However, I think where they're living is great at home with their parents because they're saving money. I'll just give you the synopsis of what I'm seeing. Not a concern with having roommates or issues of that nature. Just where they're at is where they need to be from when I saw those results. All right, and on this slide, trustees, you'll see the first half of our residence halls and the percent occupied. Of course, 68 is the total. And on this slide, I know you have copies of this as well, are the second half of the buildings alphabetically and where we are in terms of our occupancy. So takeaways from the housing presentation, of course, the spring retention, I'm so happy to tell you, is the best it's been in the past 3 years. So even though we have slightly less students when compared to last spring, we're actually retaining these students longer. And that's important to note because we want them to be successful. We want them to complete their education with us. And about 79% of the students that attend on this campus live in housing. So around 80%, you could say, if someone asks you, you actually can say, yes, 80% of the students live on site here in Brenham. So I will stand for any questions on housing.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
On our agreement with Servitas on the three Ps, P3s.
P3s, yeah.
P3s. You know what I'm talking about.
You got it.
I don't think we have a set occupancy, but is there a level that we receive revenue? And I know we've talked about this before. I just can't remember, Leighton.
We do not have a set occupancy rate, and that was one thing we had to negotiate to not have a set occupancy rate. It's very good for the college. So how they operate is sort of their debt service ratio, and so they have to make a certain debt payment every year. They have Servitas has targeted rates and all those things sort of make that. And then how the college gets paid from that is any excess proceeds and revenue at the end of every year. We review that with Servitas for both P3s, and any sort of revenue that's net at the end of that, that's what comes to the college. So that's how the college gets paid on P3s is excess revenue that is discussed with Servitas and their board, and then it's actually discussed with NCCD, the financing partner, and that is then brought back to the college.
Have we had any of that, Leighton?
We have had some of that, and we continue to negotiate with NCCD, especially on Mill Creek. The challenge there is that's a federal loan, federal dollars that did that. So anytime excess proceeds have to be distributed, it has to go through the federal government, which you can imagine is interesting. But anyway, so we continue to work through that, but that's all going very well. We review that every single year in the summertime with NCCD and Servitas.
I have a question. You know, I see that occupancy's down a little bit compared to when we had our own dorms. However, I would also think that it probably cost us more money to operate our own dorms as well, utilities, wages for residents, people, and all that. So I'm just curious the offset. You know, even though we may be down a little bit of money on revenue because of the fact that we don't actually operate those dorms. We're probably down on expenses as well. And do we have a feel for what that is?
Chairman, that's a fair statement. We've, the cost of the dorms is picked up, employees and maintenance and that type of thing is picked up by the NCCD and Servitas. So you're on point. If, and going to it, for example, we don't have to have housing residents there, and the cleaning and custodial expenses, the maintenance of it.
So all that's borne by the P3?
Yes, the HVAC and that kind of thing. So yeah, it comes off Mr. Feldhage's bucket list or basket.
Okay.
Well, it comes off the P3 for them, but we still have it for our buildings.
Yes,
we
sir.
own and
Yeah,
operate.
if we own the dorm, we are
Right.
paying those maintenance.
Do we know, do we have that number, what that looks like, of what how our expenses have been reduced on what we're having to maintain?
We'll research that for you.
That would be good. I'd be
Okay.
interested to know that.
Okay, yes, sir. So,
Any other questions? All right. We will now move to the fall 2024 graduation report. Dr. McBride, you're still on tap.
Yes, sir. I think this is my third time, though, then I'm done. All right, thank you so much, Chair. And good morning again, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chair, and board members. We've talked a lot about House Bill 8 and credentials of value and how the college is rewarded in terms of how the students have done. And traditionally, we have shared with you every spring. If you recall, we have a May graduation, and then on the June board meeting, I would share with you the spring numbers. But knowing how things have changed in funding-wise, we're also going to start to share the fall numbers with you, too, so you can see how we're doing as an institution. So, of course, this is a photo from our graduation in December, and if you have time later, you can click on the link and watch the graduation if there were parts you'd like to revisit. We had around 170 students that did process with us that day, and that's always so exciting to see how everyone is doing and how the families are excited and proud of their loved ones, and what wonderful change we're making in folks' lives here at Blinn College. A couple other terms that we've talked about. I think, June, as I said, it's been a while since we've talked about some of these terms, about the three types of ways that we can see students who graduate. So, of course, we have the regular graduation applicants, so current students who are just getting ready to finish up. They have until January 31st was the cutoff to apply for graduation. We also have the reverse transfer students, so those who may be co-enrolled or attending another college who transfer their courses back to Blinn to get their degree or certificate. And of course, the lost graduates, students who we have found them to have completed all of their requirements, and we do outreach to them. All right, on this slide, trustees, you will see our graduation statistics. Of course, we've increased our number of students who have completed their associates and certificates, and it's great to see we have an increase of 29 when compared to last year. So, of course, we want to see this continue as years go on, and again, wanted to start sharing this with all of you so that you're familiar with what's happening, because we do confer degrees in the fall as well. And of course, student services, we review lists of students and look when they hit a certain credit hour, we start sending communications, encouraging them to reach out to us if they don't on their own. We've run ads also to look to increase our reverse transfer in the battalion, and we've also done some other press releases in local papers. I don't know if you noticed it in the fall, but the whole point behind that is to get the public aware that you can still get your degree. Even if you've left us, we can still award that to you, and we'd like to continue to do so. And I'll stand for any questions, please.
No questions, it looks like. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the third time.
Okay, we'll move on now to the consent agenda item portion of our agenda. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the trustee so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees receive agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. The approval of minutes for the January 22nd, 2025 regular meeting is the item. Look for a motion.
So moved.
Trustee Wells. Trustee Benke makes a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda items pass. Now we will move on to discussion and possible action items. First item on the agenda is the authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for architectural services related to master planning and design of an academic building on the Blinn, Waller, Harris County campus. And I think Mr. Schubert's going to start us up on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, trustees. What a great day to have a further discussion about our upcoming Waller-Harris County campus. As you know, that project is moving forward. We've got an action item today to talk about architects, and we're going to have several presentations from Mark and from Dr. Burton on this to kind of go through some of the details of this. But before we start with that, I kind of want to give an overview for where we're looking at today, where we're going to go with this presentation. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at, from Gensler's master plan, we're going to look at some of those original geographic scans, some of the demographics, some of the enrollment forecasts from that area. There's some very detailed information we're going to walk through from Gensler's master plan related to that, really looking at what Gensler was saying on all of those sort of items. The second thing we're going to look at is the master planning of that 100-acre campus and also the program and design of that building. Y'all have seen that information. Just want to keep refreshing your memory about that. And then also we're going to come back and revisit the financial outlook that Dr. Burton and his group has come up with. As you recall, we had a financial analysis of this project along with the Brenham Intramural project, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And that was a very conservative estimate. I mean, we were basing those estimates on the most conservative approach that we could. And what I mean by that is the financial outlook you're going to see was derived based on no tuition increases, no enrollment increases, no state appropriations increases. We're trying to take the most conservative financial approach as possible, that if everything just stays the same, what are the financial outlook for that? And you'll see here in a second that it is very doable, even with those assumptions of no tuition increase, no enrollment increase, no state appropriations increase. And then finally, we'll come back, and the action item, of course, is to select an architect for this project. But I'm going to go ahead and invite Mark to come on up and discuss through the facility items. If you have any questions, trustees, just let us know, and happy to answer any questions.
Leighton, thank you very much for that introduction. Chairman Colcourse, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. Appreciate your time letting us present this item. It's very exciting. So as Leighton said, we are going to start off, we're going to go back to some information from Gensler's master plan. We're going to look at some geographic scans as well as some demographics and some enrollment forecasts that they had in that master plan. This was originally presented, you know, we've been talking about a future campus for a couple years now. This was originally presented in their master plan, and then we updated y'all in October of 2022 on some of this, but we just want to bring it back up. This first area we're going to look at, this is a map that was included that shows the red outline at the time of the master plan was our service area. If you'll recall, down there in the right-hand corner, we have Waller, and there's that arrowhead that sticks into our service area. The last legislative session, that was awarded to Blinn. The portion of Waller ISD located in Harris County is now part of our service area. What we really want to focus on in this map is the color coding. In the bottom right-hand corner, that dark blue, that is growth potential greater than 2%. And you can see all that growth potential coming along 290, coming out of Harris County into Waller County. And this being the greatest growth potential in and around our service area. So that is part of the master plan, was the emphasis of looking at future campus expansion in the Waller-Harris County area. The next graph I'm going to show you again from the master plan, this is more the direct line growth. And while there are some specific numbers there, these are numbers that Gensler needed to put in the master plan. What we want to focus on here again is the growth potential. The 2.4% growth over the short term, the 2.19% growth over more of a long term. And the potential, this is based on the master plan and the demographics we're seeing, the highest growth potential we have in our service area. Now this may be a newer slide, but it was part of the master plan. This is part of the appendix that Gensler had to our master plan. And this is where they dug in a little bit more. They called it a market survey. And there's a couple slides I'm going to show you from this. This is new, but a couple slides that they have from this market survey that shed a little bit more light on the potential in this area of campus. This is demographics taken from within a 20-mile radius of Waller, so a short drive distance from Waller. The first number we want to look at is the total population in that area. In 2010, there were 416,000 people in that area. By 2020, that had grown to 583,000 people within that 20-mile radius of Waller. And they're projecting by 2030 that being almost 750,000 people in that 20-mile drive radius to Waller. The other interesting part of the demographic is the breakdown of that population. 23.3% of that population is 18 to 34, the college-age folks. 4.4% are the folks that are currently in high school, your 15 to 17-year-olds. And then another 23.3% are the children that will be coming to college at a later date. So a very large percentage of that 750,000 people could be looking at higher education. Another demographic element of this that we want to look at today is the education enrollment. So of the breakdown of the total population, 5,400 of that were grad school. You have 31,000 of the population that are in college, and you can see as you get into the high school, the grade 9 through 12, the grade 5 through 8, and the grade 1 through 4, how that population increases. Again, just helping reinforce the potential and the growth in this area of the service area. So from that demographic, we want to look at the specifics of this project. So we're going to start off, again, looking at the master plan of this 100-acre campus as well as the programming and design. So just to remind us, this is the 100 acres we purchased back in October. This gives us the opportunity for that 100-acre campus. Is what we're trying to do in this master plan. We want our master planner to develop a land use plan, tell us where the academic zones might be, where our service areas might be, where our workforce area might be, help us lay out the long-term growth, where a central plant might be located at some point, green spaces, parking, detention areas. We also want to know an infrastructure plan. We've worked with the city of Waller to bring utilities to this site, but once they're on site, we need a long-range plan of knowing where does the water go, where does the sewer go, where do our eventual thermal lines go. We want to develop some campus design guidelines. We want to know what should our aesthetic be on this campus, what types of buildings, how tall should they be, what types of materials should go on our buildings. We also want to develop a signage and wayfinding plan to help the public and our students get onto campus and get to their final destination on campus. What makes it the easiest for them to know where we are and where to get where they want to go. In parallel with that master plan, we also want the designers to program and design our first academic building. And so what we are tentatively looking at from the great experiences we've had on the Rellis campus is about an 87,000 square foot academic building, which would provide us with the academic spaces, the labs, the office spaces for faculty and staff, the support spaces like student services, like a writing learning center area. We're anticipating the total project cost to be about $68 million. Of course, we need our designers and eventually our construction manager to verify that number. And the rough timeline that we've laid out is between FY25 to FY28 with an anticipated occupancy in August of 2027. That would allow us to begin teaching the fall of FY28. And you can see we've put some bullet points in there from different times where we might be coming back to the board to discuss this with you again. Of course, we're at the February timeframe for the architect. We're anticipating bringing a construction manager back in front of the board for your approval in April. At some point, we will need to sell bonds, and Dr. Burton's going to talk to us about the finances shortly, but at some point, we will need to come in front of you. We're anticipating August to sell bonds, or the option to sell bonds. Of course, there's a time frame after that. We wouldn't be selling them immediately. With the anticipation that if all goes well, we could bring a guaranteed maximum price to the board before the end of the year, allowing us to get started with construction in 2026, keeping us on track for that, being able to teach classes in Waller in the fall of FY28. That's a tight time frame. Lots of things have to happen for that to go well. And of course, it's always best for us to open a new academic building for that fall semester. We get the best bang for our buck when we open in the fall semester. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Burton to talk about the finances of this.
This was let's start off by talking about our cash, reviewing that. Right now, we have $28.2 million available for new projects. As we mentioned earlier, the project breakdown for existing projects only exists of the Bryan campus, finishing that up, administration building, and then the Brenham campus chiller. So this model is built upon the assumption, let's start off with, this model begins in September 1st of 2024. And you can see during this time period, we've got the Bryan administration project, which is now closed down and is completed, but yet, closing out the financials. We've got the Wallace-Harris County land, and that is now completed. We have made that purchase. The next item on that list is the Brenham Central plant, and Mr. Feldhage is working on that and has been spending down on that. Then we have two additional potential projects between now and 2029, and that's the Wallace-Harris County Academic Building and then the Brenham Sports and Intramural Zone. We're anticipating at the end of 2025 in August, adding $10 million to our bottom line, so we anticipate having $35 million available for projects. Moving forward in 2026, as construction gets underway for the Waller-Harris Academic Building and the Brenham Sports and Intramural Zone, we will sell $60 million in bonds, but we will also add $6 million in fund balance for the construction of the projects. Moving forward, as the projects finish and proceed, we would tap down to $12.9 million. Keep in mind, this is not touching the reserves, the 42.5 that we have set aside. And then finally, in 2028, we'll be right at $6 million as our projection. And again, these are conservative projections. And then we would start rolling forward for 2029. And trustees, I just want to let you know that when Dr. Hensley assigned us this project, she gave us some assumptions that we had to work off of. And so I want to give you that list of assumptions. The first one is that we're going to be very conservative. We're not going to count our eggs before they're hatched. We can fund with the existing operations. Our debt service will never exceed 9%, and when it gets close to that, it's only for a small period of time because other bonds get paid off, and then that debt service will go down. There will be no tuition increase. There'll be no additional state funding. And any additional state funding or tuition increase will be extra money. We will not tap into our reserves, the 42.5. We will maintain our healthy cash balance. Our deferred maintenance is already funded throughout this period during the construction. Our debt service, our loan payment is included in our calculations. The project is a revenue generator. The project balance, the balance for new projects never goes below $5.8 million. There's a margin of safety in case we are wrong in some of our projections. And then this is gets our $21 million investment in the land in Waller utilized up as quickly as we can possibly do that. So those are the assumptions, the parameters that we went through here to build this model. And as you can see, it's very feasible and well within our means. Based on that.
Thank you, Dr. Burton. And now, of course, to the meat and potatoes of what we're here for today. We are coming to you with a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with an architect for this project. And we've gone through our process of receiving qualification statements and interviews. And from that process, administration is requesting authorization to negotiate and execute a contract with Cannon Design. Cannon Design is newer to Blinn College. We have not worked with them. But through the process, we've learned they are a larger national firm. They have 18 offices nationally and a couple offices internationally. They would be performing this project from their Houston office. They have a Houston contingent, good-sized office in the Houston area. They've been around for a while, since 1923. They come to us highly recommended from some of their references. And some of the projects you're seeing on the screen, the bottom left-hand corner, that is a master plan that they've completed. They've been working with TCU for some years. They've done work at TCU that includes various zones on that campus. The bottom right picture is the University of Houston Biomedical Center that is one of their master plan projects and they're in design on. And then the upper right is an academic facility they're currently doing for College of the Mainland. So through the process, the search committee received I apologize, let me back up. In November, the board authorized administration to solicit these qualifications. In response to that, the district received 15 qualification statements. A search committee reviewed those and narrowed the field down to 4 firms that we brought back for an interview on January 28th. And based on those qualification statements and the interviews, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Canon Design for the design of the master plan, programming and design of the academic building. And again, the funds for this are available from unrestricted funds. This portion of the project is available from unrestricted funds. So with that, I'm here to stand for any questions, but again, our recommendation is there on the screen for y'all.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the financial assumptions, my question is the assumption that there'll be no tuition increase, no new revenue necessarily. Does that include an assumption that no new revenue from students on that campus? Or does it assume we have a certain amount of students on that campus?
It includes no new revenue from tuition, fees, increased enrollment. And so in that model, we're rolling flat forward.
Mark, do you recall, Gensler, it seems like they gave us kind of a predicted enrollment for the Waller campus, and I can't recall what that was, but it seemed like it was 1,200, 1,500. I can't remember
They
that
did
number.
have a slide, and so I want to maybe put that into context. We needed a start point, and at that point we were trying to make our best guess, but Gensler did mention a starting number of 1,500.
Okay.
But again, that is more a start point to show you that there is potential growth. I don't know that 1,500 is an accurate.
Right.
Clearly knowing where we're at with the junior high, we know we're going to have to start somewhere, but they did start off with a number of 1,500.
But we're saying we're starting with 0 as far as a revenue number at this point for that financial projection.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And that's all campuses, not even just Waller.
Yep.
That's Bryan, Brenham.
Okay, all right.
May I ask a
Trustee
question? I think typically we have our debt service to revenues has been 7%. We've tried to stay with that. I think I heard 9%.
It would go up to 9% for a period of time. Short of 9, it was 8-point-something% according to our projections from Stephen Adams. But once there's going to be a series of bonds paid off in 4 to 5 years, and then that will push it back down below the 8%.
Is there a chance that we could get by on borrowing less than the $60 million?
We could discuss with our financial advisor various scenarios. And again, there's also the element of the assumptions we've made. If some of those come better than what we've assumed, there's a scenario where we could borrow less.
It's the debt level at $60 million. If we issue that is probably 1.5 times more than our biggest project. I think our biggest project was $37 million, which was one of the buildings on Rellis. So that's very, very significant. On the expense side, Glenn, when we're looking at all the expenses of the new campus, that would include security, that would include staff, that would include maintenance. Are we projecting a certain, right now in our economy, we've got CPI going up, inflation going up. I think we're at projected for the next 5 years is 3.2 or 3.3%. So we've got, which isn't bad, but it is going up. Do we include what did we include in our, or I don't know if I should say what did we, but have we encompassed all of
Keep in
that?
mind, Trustee Kettler, the kind of the assumption there is that we had a $130 million budget. In that, the CPI relative to that, we didn't consider it, we considered two things. That one, we would be able to absorb it through more efficiencies and be able to roll forward within that. So we did not build a solid 3% across the board, because every year we've been able to identify efficiencies, and we plan to continue that.
We're saying, can we make I think it was $6 million or 5.8? That was sort of our guide. We can get by on that, and then if we
Yes, ma'am. And
project
then,
our expenses based on.
Based on historical and budget time. And keep in mind, the bond would be, worst case, what we're coming up with is $4 million. And, that is built into that model. And so.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can piggyback on that. We are watching the bottom line as these projects progress very closely. We're very, very mindful of how much we're dropping to the bottom line every single year, because trustees, the more we drop to the bottom line, the less we have to borrow. So we have a $60 million bond here as the maximum. If we are able to drop more money to the bottom line, let's say we drop an additional $5 million to the bottom line. Well, now we need $55 million, not $60 million to borrow. So we're being very mindful of how all those levers are working together. And one of our targets is to drop as much as we can to the bottom line so we can reduce the amount of bonds, which reduces the amount of annual payment, which reduces the overall cost of all of this. So that's one thing we're being very mindful of. We've crunched those numbers. We're looking at adding more. We have conservative projections in this model, but we're looking at adding more so we can then reduce our bond amount.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's easier being on this side of the table or that side of the table. This is an aggressive plan, and I certainly was a part of helping get this developed a couple of years ago, for the master planning process. I've got some questions and want to make sure we're making all the right decisions, both from a staff and a management standpoint. But anyway, on the demographic slide, a very good presentation, by the way. I thought it laid out everything and laid out a good route for us to follow. From the demographic information, is that any way related to what our academic plan might be and what we intend to teach and what the demographics might need in that service area? And is that something maybe we should look at?
I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Dr. Busicki to talk about the academics.
Trustee, in a campus like that, I think that we certainly need to start to offer the basic courses that would support a full associate's. We have a close proximity to Prairie View. It is perhaps one of the expectations that we will be able to attract some of those students that would take those classes with us rather than essentially taking, much like the agreement that we have with Texas A&M. But again, to answer your question, generic terms, we essentially just will plan first to have a very tight number of classes to avoid loss of efficiency. But make sure that the classes that are offered are classes that all the students need.
Okay. I'm not sure if there's other community sources that could, help us develop what that might look like, but that might be something we want to consider is getting something established. Make sure we're teaching the right stuff. Second thing I've got a couple things written down here, is the agenda item talks about a master plan. You referenced the previous master plan, and I don't want to slow this down, but I would like to see how we're going to develop this property before we go forward with the first building. And some type of site plan, some type of layout. I personally would like to see that, just see what our overall grand plan is for that 100 acres of property. I don't know if there's a phased approach that we need to look at for this project from my perspective, but I'd just like to see more detail. Of course, I wasn't around when you were making some of these decisions in my absence, but I just think there's more information needed for me right now. I'm not saying that can't happen on this timeline, but I need a little more.
Just, you would like to see the master plan be further developed.
Right.
And the building maybe come slightly after the master plan has been reviewed. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, yes. Before we get a contractor on board, I'd like to know exactly where we're at from what the site looks like.
Okay.
Exactly, personally. I'm not, the third thing I have is getting to the finance. Now, if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's no new, with no enrollment increases, no tuition, that covers the debt portion of us selling these $60 million bonds. But if we looked at a business plan for the campus itself, because we're going to have operating expenses once we get into that based on some enrollment number, and that could affect our bottom line with additional expenses. So how are we, do we need to develop a business plan for the campus?
Within our past, every year we've developed efficiencies. And so when we were doing our expense side, that was the approach we were taking, was that, yes, there would be inflationary increases, potential salary increases, but within our efficiencies of our business plan, we could cover that. And then starting in the 29 area, hopefully then we would anticipate that the Waller revenues could start covering and make the campus self-sufficient from that point going forward.
Should we have some projections on that, though?
Okay. Yeah, we stopped in 29 because it really, beyond 5 years is just a guess. And so I wasn't comfortable saying that this is what will happen 5 years from now. So, but no, we feel comfortable that we will be able to provide the campus, keep it growing. I mean, keep everything This is a worst-case conservative scenario that we presented that still shows that we can move forward.
What's this bring our total debt up to?
This would get us, right now we're at 99 million. This would get us up to 160 million. But keep in mind, we pay down a little bit every year.
Sure.
So, it's coming down. So.
Okay. That's all I have.
Trustee Krausen.
Yeah, two things. Again, I agree with Richard. Good presentation, Mark. But the demographics for that area, that was back in 2020, and unfortunately, the world is much different today than 2020, and we're halfway to that next set of items that they were talking about. Has there been any update in that right there? And I'm going to go ahead and ask my second question and let you kind of comment. And that's more of maybe we ought to go back to them and ask them to update these slides. Maybe that's my statement there. The second thing is, in the backyard of this facility is the largest air conditioning manufacturing company in the world. You didn't mention anything about the technical programs or anything like that. Have we gone to Dakin and talked to them about, is there any kind of combination of training or anything like that we can, or help them subsidize this building or something along those lines?
I'll answer the first question. I believe maybe
the second one, Mark.
Oh, you'll take that one. Perfect. So on the first question, no, we have not updated this. This is just information that was presented in the master plan. It's probably a good idea to get that. What we do know is the information, and I'll remind you of our meeting in November when the economic development folks showed up from Waller, as well as the school district came in from Waller. They are seeing growth that could potentially be exceeding this.
That's what I would think. I would agree with that. I think those numbers are going to be even higher than what we're seeing here.
So I think maybe that's an aspect of the master plan that we need to add to the new consultant, is that they update our demographics and let us see more recent numbers on the growth in the area.
All right, thank you. Dr. Krause, and I'll piggyback a little bit on that. The teams that we interviewed for the master plan and the architect, those master planning teams have demographers on them. And so the team that will be doing the master plan for this has demographers as part of the team. So they will be updating this, and maybe not these specific numbers, but they'll be updating the demographic numbers based on that. So I anticipate that'll be part of this overall idea. On the workforce, great questions. Trustee Malley, I was going to piggyback a little bit on yours. Dr. Basicki talked about the academic side, but the workforce side in Waller is really exciting. And I never thought I would say that, exciting, but it is. We're doing almost a $600,000 SDF grant with Daikin right now. So we're already training on site with Daikin of almost $600,000. We continue to have that. We've been approached recently, well, not just recently, ever since we started announcing we're in Waller, all of a sudden there's interest in what Blinn College can provide to that area. I talked with Vice Chancellor Anderson, who unfortunately has laryngitis today, was not able to be here. We are getting almost weekly contacts from groups and businesses and consortiums of businesses in the Waller area for training, Now they know we're there, they're coming and saying, okay, Blinn, what can you offer? And we just keep showing the whole menu. Not only can we do it on our site at Waller High School, but we can also do it at their site as well. And that's really what's been very popular with these groups and these business groups so far. I don't want to send my employees somewhere else. I want to train them here on our equipment, and we've already got several setups, so we're doing that, and some very exciting developments coming in the future with even more of that. And to go even further, and maybe not the detail you want to know, when we're developing those programs, part of a credential of value under House Bill 8, there's what's called an ICLC, which is a fancy word for industry recognized credential. Those are funding items for House Bill 8. They have a regular and they have a high demand. So welders and those sort of things, you get even more money from the state on those ICLCs. The way we are designing these programs with these businesses is that those employees walk away with an ICLC at the end of their training, which then further brings us to higher state appropriations and how that's all interconnected. So a lot of interest from the businesses, and we're designing those programs and training so they walk away with an ICLC as well.
May I make a
Trustee
comment?
Kettler.
I'd like to add to that just a little bit, Leighton. I believe it was last week that the Trump administration did remind us of the $500 billion investment in AI for these private groups to work on the AI. And with that, the administration did mention that with AI, and especially in Texas being so big, that we are going to need electricians, we are going to need HVAC, and perhaps there may be some sort of federal funding with these programs, I don't know. But I do think that we really need to pay attention to that, and that our facilities, that we allow for the flexibility, however needed, that if we need to join in on these programs and have the type of interest that you're talking about, that the administration be sure to address that so that we can hop on that train as quickly as possible to get these students ready for the workforce and the type of things that are coming down the pipe.
Very good point, Trustee Kettler. Trustees, just so you know, there are large pots of money at both the federal and state level for workforce education. I mentioned the SDF, the Skills Development Fund, earlier with Dyken. We do millions of dollars of SDF funds every year. So there are large pots of money at the state and federal level. And Vice Chancellor Anderson and his group work hand in hand with our Grants and Resource Development Office to not only look at what we've done, but other potential avenues. You mentioned the administration mentioning new workforce funding and those sort of things at a federal level. We're all on top of that. Vice Chancellor Anderson's group works with our Grants and Resource Development to find those new opportunities, apply for those, and many of the items I referenced today in the workforce are incorporating federal and state dollars, grant dollars, in those trainings that we're looking at doing right now. It's a very good point.
Trustee Wells.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I have the privilege of being the oldest tenured board member, so I was here when the master plan was done. Trustee Crowson and Trustee Kokos came aboard. I think the key to this visionary leadership, because there's a difference between spending money and investing money. And the people who preceded me that has to the place where we are today is that if we look at our diversified portfolio model, yes, we're looking at issuing a bond, but then we also have federal funds, but then also Susan Myers and that group do a great job with naming rights. We have 2 floors at the new building we just cut in Bryan. So a lot of this is walking by faith. So I believe we need to crunch the numbers. I believe that we need to stay conservative. But if Blinn is going to continue to be what it is and to serve this community, the last thing I'll say is that the trustee chairman, Kokos, and Vice Chair Binky and I had the privilege of being interviewed by SACS Accreditation. If they remember, we were asked a final question that says, how often do you all deal with your master plan? And our final consensus answer is that our master plan is a living, breathing document that you can just see from when we had our accreditation review how many of those things have already come off of the paper. So it's not just some bound document that sits on the floor somewhere. So I'm proud of the visionary leadership of our chancellor. I'm proud of the courage of the trustees who preceded me to be able to say, If Blinn is going to continue to be the flagship junior college in the state of Texas, we have to continue to invest money in our students and the people who serve our students. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Trustee Wells. I'll piggyback off of that and just also point out that if you look down the road 5-10 years, the likelihood of any real growth within our existing campuses, our existing locations, is not hugely promising. I think most of those areas, we may see a little bit of growth here and there, but our true opportunity for growth is in Waller. That's why we went to the legislature to get that little extra piece of the district. That's why we bought a piece of property there. I think that this is something that we need to do. And I think I mean, you guys have done a great job. Thank you for being conservative. Continue to be conservative. We appreciate that. And then we're going to overperform after that. So I would entertain a motion from someone on this group if they so chose.
I move that we authorize Cannon Design for architectural services related to the master plan design of the academic building on the Blinn Waller Harris County campus.
Motion made by Trustee Wells. Trustee Krausen seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the second item on the agenda, the authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for architectural services related to master planning and design of a sports intramural zone on the Blinn Brenham campus. Dr. Burton, are you going to take this? Oh, looks like both of y'all.
And sir, I'll pass that on to Mr. Hillig.
Okay.
All right. So again, thank you for this opportunity. I have another presentation, probably because we've already looked at finances. We don't need to jump into that again. You've seen that. But we'll talk to you a little bit about our process and where we're at on the master plan and design of our sports and intramural zone here on the Brenham campus. To remind us, I'm going to go back through information that we presented to the board back in November and then bring a recommendation for an architect. So to update us, this is our master plan to include the recently purchased 24 acres, and we're going to look at that shortly, as well as programming and design of this new sports and intramural zone that was outlined in Gensler's master plan. So to remind us of the area of land we're looking at, this is, we previously had owned, or we own, 27 vacant acres behind the ag complex. A couple years ago, we purchased an additional 24 acres, which is the land you see outlined in blue. And with that incorporated, we would like to remaster plan the sports and intramural zone to take better advantage of the area that we have. That 27 acres we have to the right, you can see the densely wooded area. That is a creek bottom and a floodplain that would be very difficult to develop. So better utilizing the total land we have is a big aspect of this master plan. When we get into the sports and intramural zone, we are taking what Gensler presented in their master plan, relocating it on this new 24 acres, as well as using some of the 27 acres. What we are anticipating here is a practice football field, a competition soccer field, bringing the competition soccer back from Holt Park, a competition softball field, again bringing competition softball back to campus from Holt Park. This would also include approximately a 27,000 square foot field house, which is what Gensler presented in their master plan. That would include locker rooms for sports such as football, women's softball, some facilities for the golf team, men's and women's soccer, and I'm forgetting one off the top of my head. I'd have to look back through my notes. Cross country, that's correct. So we're getting all those sports that need a home here on campus out into this area. We also are going to be putting in the associated parking lot and a 2,500 square foot unconditioned field storage building for the various pieces of equipment we need to maintain. We're also going to need to extend a road, so there's a couple road access in the area. We're going to be extending the road. We need to extend utilities and infrastructure to this undeveloped piece of land. Our anticipated total project cost, so that's construction and the soft costs for designers and surveyors, is about $29.5 million. Again, as we get the designers on board, they'll help us firm that price up. And this timeline is on a parallel timeline to what we just talked about for Waller, to where we're looking at hiring an architect today. With your approval, we'll hire an architect today. We would then bring back a construction manager in the April timeframe for the board's approval. Again, we would need to look at selling bonds in that total financial package. This project would need bonds as well, so we would need board approval to sell bonds. We're targeting around the August timeframe for that approval. Bringing a guaranteed maximum price back before the end of the year, allowing us to begin construction in 2026. And we anticipate an occupancy in August of 27. We're going to try and massage that a little bit. This is a little bit of a different project than we're used to, so we might be able to get it done a little sooner than that, hopefully in time for the football team to start practicing on the field before that season, the fall of 2027. As far as our recommendation, again, similar process that we continue to do. We received, again, about 10 proposals on this project, and we narrowed that down to 2 firms for the interview. And from those interviews in the proposal process, administration is recommending Pfluger Architects for this project. Pfluger is not completely unknown to Blinn. They were a part of the team that helped us develop the field house at Leroy Dreyer Field. They were a consulting architect on that. You can see somewhat of their influence in one of their pictures in the middle right-hand side. That's got a similar feel to what we have done at Dreyer Field. They're a Texas-based firm with 5 offices throughout the state. They have offices in Austin, Corpus Christi, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio. Their Houston office will be providing services for this project. They've been around since 1972. They've got good staff throughout the state, about 136 staff members throughout the state. And some of the images you can see there, the bottom left-hand corner is an athletics master plan they did for TLU. The bottom right-hand corner is one of their first projects they did out of that master plan. That's a sporting facility, kind of similar to what we're doing, multiple teams within one facility. They've also done some work for UTSA. That image you're seeing in the middle right-hand side is the softball locker room. They did a field house for softball and baseball at UTSA. And then in the upper right is more of a lobby space. They've done work at Texas State. So that is kind of a lobby trophy commons area for some rooms at Texas State. So with that, trustees, our recommendation is that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Pfluger Architects for architectural services related to master planning and design of a sports and intramural zone on the Blinn Brenham campus. Again, similar to this, funds are available for this portion of the project out of our reserve funds. So with that, if there are any questions.
Trustee O'Malley.
Same comment on looking at a site plan, master plan in the entire 50 acres to see how these proposed facilities work on that land and any other ideas we might have for the balance of the property. I know there's an old right-of-way that was at one time dedicated to the city for the extension of Sager Street.
Sager Street, yes.
And I think that needs to be, cleared up with whatever that means, getting that property back or have that property rededicated to the city for that extension. I think it's an okay project, but I think we need to put some planning into it before we actually start construction on anything. And is there a phasing opportunity would be my only other comment for trying to do all this. Do we have to do it all at one time? So those are my comments.
Understood. Thank you.
My question would be on the financial side. The calculations that you presented to us in the first deal, that's all inclusive in this project as well?
Yes, sir. It, roughly 96 million was our final number, and so that includes both Waller and the intramural sports zone, and that includes cash reserves plus bond.
Trustee Wells.
Just comments about when we spent the $10 million to renovate Leroy Dreyer Field, and there was a former trustee that apologized because they said they didn't see it initially, and then after we won the national championship, they said we see it clearly. The capacity for our women's sports to have locker rooms Because do they currently have locker rooms?
The women's softball team does have a locker room at Holt Park. It is located in a building that's owned by the
Okay.
city, but we maintain.
But it's not on this facility.
It is, the softball team will be relocated to this facility.
But my question is currently, is the women's locker room on this facility?
No,
But-
no, sir.
Okay,
No, the
all
men-
right. And the reason why I'm asking is because there can be some liability issues pertaining to if there's not balance. So I just want us to be sensitive.
I may have
to that.
misunderstood your question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
A women's soccer facility will be located as part of this project.
Okay.
I thought you were asking if we currently had one.
Yeah, but currently on our facilities, we don't have softball or women's soccer competitive on this campus.
That is
On-
correct.
Okay, that's my question. And this project would bring that here?
That is correct.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, for sure, Title IX issue that we'd love to address. Trustee
Correct me
Kettler?
if I'm wrong, but if we do the entire project at this point, Richard, versus maybe breaking it into pieces, we would take advantage probably of a better interest rate, perhaps, Clint, in that we may have, a better pricing, maybe that's the right word. Because once we spend our money on these other projects, our credit rating, we may lose our very, very good credit rating at that point. So I think that does come into play somewhat.
In discussions with Stephen Adams, our bond advisor, he said the biggest factor that will impact us is enrollment. What we borrow, he really thinks we have capacity for everything, and our rating will stay fine. But what as long as we can show enrollment is what they're looking at nationwide. And Texas is in very good position because Texas is one of the few states where enrollment has been steady, if not increasing, throughout. So
Are you saying, Clint, we
I'm speaking
could
for
do it in
him, yes.
pieces or do it all at one time? But as long as we maintain enrollment, we should be in good shape.
correct, yes, ma'am. So enrollment is the biggest driver of our bond rating.
Enrollment's the key. We've got to continue to grow that. I've just never spent $100 million.
Yeah. And if I can get a recap of Dr. McBride's, if I remember her report correctly, is that 79% of the enrolled students on the Brenham campus live on campus. So to create an atmosphere and environment like at our cruises center and other places where students choose to come in, spend the extra money to fill the dormitories that live on the campus, having a sports and intramural complex enhances that, which ultimately can tie to enrollment. So again, just because I'm not the sharpest pencil in the box, if we round up 80% of the students who live on the Blinn campus students live on campus. Okay.
Yes, trustee, you are correct. And the other thing is you'd be bringing activities to the campus to enhance that culture and that campus life here. Because we are a destination campus. Students move here to be with us. So I agree.
One item I might add to the conversation, and I failed to maybe emphasize this when we were talking about the Waller-Harris County project as well. In the balance of timing and funding is the continued escalation of costs. We need to keep in mind that every year we're going to see 5 to 6% escalation in construction costs. So it's just something we need to factor into our decision making.
Mark, I've got a question. On the, what we pay a Fluger Architects or Canon or whomever, do we pay that as a percentage of the total cost of the project, or how do we pay these guys?
That factors in. Typically, we negotiate a set fee. We have already started putting together some of those high-level budgets. For the project at Waller, I would anticipate the total professional fees being around $5 million that get paid out over the life of the project. Not all of that is paid up front. Some of that gets paid in the construction. On the smaller project, on the sports and intramural zone, it's closer to about $2.6 million. That's for the architects, geotechnical surveys, some of the funds we pay to the CMAR for their pre-construction fees. But that gets kind of prorated across the life of the project.
I'll, apologize for any architects that may be in the room. I don't trust architects, okay? My concern is that, Blinn has a certain standard that we need to uphold in what something looks like. Because we've done a wonderful job building beautiful buildings. What these kids don't have right now, they have nothing, as far as something nice as a dressing room and the locker room facility. My encouragement would be, let's make it nice, looks good from the outside, but let's be very careful about how fancy we feel like we need to make the entire interior just to save cost, where possible, Again, we've got a standard to uphold, but, we're providing something that we have nothing at this point. So anything we provide is going to be much better than what we've had. And I would just encourage us to be, very conservative with how we plan this facility. I think it's very needed. I just think we just need to be conservative.
Understood. Thank you for the comment.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I agree with those comments. Jimmy, I'm ready to make the motion.
All right. Well, if you're ready to make it, you make it.
Make the motion that we authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Pfluger for architectural services related to the master plan design of the sports and intramural zone on the Blinn-Brenham campus.
Motion made by Trustee O'Malley. Looking for a second. Trustee Ehlert makes the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, big stuff going on today here. Moving on to item C, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for roofing contractor services related to roof replacement at J. Howell and Aline Moshat Music Facility Band Hall on the Blinn-Brenham campus. But you're going to take that as well.
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Again, thank you. This is one of our annual repairs and renovations projects. In this project, we are looking to replace the original roof on the front section of the band hall, as we call it here on campus. The facility was built in the 1970s. That's still the original roof. So with this project, this summer, we would be removing the original roof down to the metal deck and putting a new roof on the system. On January 16th, the college received 8 proposals. In response to the request for proposals. A committee reviewed those proposals, and based on those scores, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Roofing Solutions, LLC for $246,200 for the roofing contractor services related to this roof replacement at the band hall on the Blinn-Brenham campus. If approved, they would begin this work in the summer after classes are done in May. And they will be done in August and ready for the fall semester. Funds for this are available from the FY25 repairs and renovations budget. Now, a little information on Roofing Solutions. They're new to us. They are a larger national firm that does roofs. Their home base is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but they have a Houston office, and this work would be performed out of their Houston office. They've got experience in K through 12, as well as some other commercial roofing throughout the southern portion of the state of Texas. So. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
I've got a question.
Trustee Kettler.
Mark, what type of roof? Asphalt roof or
This is a modified bitumen roof.
Okay.
It's got about a 20-year lifespan. So the roof that they've had has well outlived its lifespan. A 20-year plus lifespan, I would say. It's a 20-year warranty. So this will last well into the future.
I'd entertain a motion. Trustee Benke makes the motion. Trustee Keller seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item D, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for mechanical contractor services related to water heater replacement at the Blinn College Park Apartments Phase 2 on the Blinn-Brenham campus.
Yes. So thank you for that. On January 16th, the college received three proposals in response to a request for proposals for mechanical contractor services. A committee reviewed those, and based on the committee's review, the administration is requesting that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with AMS for $107,500 for these mechanical contractor services for the water heater replacement at BCPA Phase 2. Again, this project would be done in the summer after the students leave. We're already coordinating with housing for the impact on that, and it would be completed before we begin occupancy in August. Funds are available from the FY25 repairs and renovations budget. What this project entails is BCPA Phase 2, those are the 4 buildings on the west side of Sager Street. They are serviced by two of the two original hot water boilers, supply all the hot water to that campus. One of those boilers has had to have some drastic service to it, and the other one is aging. So this project would replace those 2 boilers with a pack of instantaneous water heaters, very similar to what we did at the Phase 1 apartments a couple years ago. And we do have experience with AMS. They actually did the water heaters at BCPA Phase 1 for the original project, so we're very comfortable with them. We've also done numerous other projects with AMS in the past. So with that, we stand with any questions.
I have a question. Are we concerned at all that we only got one complete bid?
Based on the numbers we saw previously, you're correct, that this bidding process went awry in this process. When we compared their numbers to the numbers we received on the last project, they were in line considering escalation. So no, this aspect does not concern us on the numbers. We're already looking at the reasons behind that. There were a couple errors on bidders not completing forms appropriately, and one of the bidders inadvertently bidding on the wrong project. But the numbers line up with numbers we've seen in the past, so we are not concerned with that.
Thank you. I think the instant hot water heaters may take less maintenance. Do you know anything on that? Compared to the boiler system?
Yes, they do take less maintenance. Boilers are certified through the state, so there are certain inspections and a higher level of maintenance that needs to be performed on a boiler. The other aspect is with multiple smaller units, we have better redundancy. So if we do have a small failure, we still have ample capacity to serve those students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other question? All right, Trustee O'Malley makes the motion to approve this. Looking for a second. Trustee Benke, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Last item on this agenda, the authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for mechanical contractor services related to mechanical repairs on buildings A and G on the Blinn Bryan campus.
Yes, thank you for that. So on January 16th, the college again received 3 proposals for mechanical contractor services for this project. Committee reviewed those, scored those proposals, and based on the committee's recommendation, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with AMS for $270,700 for mechanical services for this mechanical project at buildings A and G on the Blinn Bryan campus. Again, a summer project. We've already been in coordination with the executive dean of the campus to help work that out. It will be done roughly in August. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it will be done before we get students back. What we are doing in this project is replacing the central air handling unit that supplies outside air to Building A. That is still the original unit from when the building was built in 1996, so it has outlived its lifespan. That will be replaced. We are also replacing the original boilers in Building G. Building G was built in 2002, so those boilers are also at the end of life. We will be replacing those with high-efficiency boilers, similar to everywhere else that we've replaced boilers. These are the last 2 boilers that need to be replaced from the original installs on the Bryan campus. And as I said before, AMS is not an unknown entity to us. They've done work on the Bryan campus as well. I believe they've replaced the last set of boilers on the Bryan campus. So funds for this are available from the FY25 repairs and renovations budget. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Doesn't look like we have any questions. Trustee Krausen makes the motion. Trustee Kettler seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That takes us to executive session, and I do not believe we have an executive session today. And before we go to adjournment, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Hensley for just a moment.
Thank you. Trustees, I'd like to make 3 comments if I might. First of all, our staff are stellar. I personally and publicly want to thank Leighton Schubert, Dr. Burton, Mark Feldhake, Dr. McBride, Dr. Busicki. It is a joy to work with you. It is not easy to bring these quality types of presentations and depth of information forward, and I want to thank you for the privilege of having the opportunity to work with you. Secondly, our trustees are stellar. You ask thoughtful, wonderful, insightful, future-shaping questions for this institution. And I thank you so very much for your leadership. It is a joy to work with you. And third, I'm looking at the seal on the back of the wall, and I see Blinn College established in 1883. So if my calculations are correct, that's 142 years. Trustees and staff and those listening, both present and online, what the trustees did today in their decision-making, I believe, sets the future for the Blinn College District. And for that, we are all most appreciative. Thank you, Chair Colquist.
Thank you, Dr. Hensley, and I'll just say thank you for your leadership, because the direction that you give our administration, I know that the conservative route is the route that you instructed, and you know, we trust that. So I appreciate your leadership greatly. Gives this board the confidence to make these types of large decisions, and you know, it doesn't go lightly. So thank you to you guys for the work that you did. I know that we've got a lot of work in front of us, and we're going to ask lots of questions because we want to make sure that we get the absolute best bang for our buck on both of these projects that we're going to do. So, you know, I apologize in advance, you know, for doing that, but that's our job. So thank you, board. Great job, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move for adjournment.
Trustee Wells, Trustee Ehlert, seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Thank you. It is 12:07 p.m. All right. Good job.
I appreciate that so much.
Trustee Wells comes through, baby.
Thank you for your visionary.
Yeah. Excellent job. Thank you for that extra work.
It's fun. I will make sure.
There we go.
I tell you, I don't know what, being out there